I guess I get to use my preacher voice today. So take it in, guys. Breathe it in. Want to welcome everyone here as we celebrate the union between Tim and Kelli. It's been an awesome journey. But before we pronounce them husband and wife, just want to share a few words with you all. Towards the end of his life, Jesus gathers his disciples, his closest disciples, and he gives them this simple command. It's simple, but yet very demanding. And he tells them, he looks at them and he says, "This is my commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you." Now, culture teaches us that love is just a noun. It's something you feel, something you experience. But the way Jesus uses it, Jesus uses this word, this love word that we use as a noun, as an action. And so if he was ever to come up to you and he would ask you, Tim, like, do you still love Kelli? And if you're thinking in your mind, like, well, you know, sometimes I love her, sometimes I don't, like sometimes I have the feelings, sometimes I don't, Jesus would probably look at you and say, no, you have it all wrong. Because the kind of love I'm talking about, it's not something you feel, it's something you do. So Jesus will look at you and he'll say, no, you have to love her. You have to learn how to love her. And what he means by this is you have to learn how to show continuous action towards Kelli. And Kelli, the same thing that goes to you, whether you feel it or whether you don't. Now, Paul, he takes Jesus' words, these exact words, and he sort of like embellishes them a little more, and he gives us a little more details. And speaking on relationships, he says this. This is found in Philippians chapter 2, beginning in verse 3. So he's talking to all followers of Jesus. He's talking to me and you. He's talking to you too, especially as you're about to enter into this new phase of your life, this new chapter. And he looks at Tim and he looks at you, Kelli, and he says, "Do nothing from selfish ambition or conceit, but in humility count others more significant than yourself." Seems pretty simple. He's saying anything you do from here on forward, don't do anything that is because of your own selfish ambition or because of your own selfish conceit. And Paul has in mind this idea of, honestly, like this competition idea. And what he's saying, like in relationships, if Tim is telling a story and he doesn't get all the facts right, Paul's saying, like, don't do anything from selfish ambition. Let him tell his story. Let him get some of the facts wrong. Don't interrupt. Just let him have his little moment of glory. And then maybe talk later that night. But not there, not in that moment. And same thing for you, Tim. He's saying the same thing. And then he says this last part, which is count others as more significant than yourself. Now let me ask you this. Have you guys ever been somewhere where you were not the most important people in the room? Yeah, it's true. I mean, just think of, have you ever been to a wedding that wasn't yours? Yeah, like, no, did you notice, Kelli, that on the wedding that wasn't yours, no one stood up for you? When you walked into the room, you were like just another random person. But here today, because it's yours, everyone is counting you as more significant than themselves. And so we already know how to do it. You already know how to do this. And for the most part, when you guys probably met, you guys did this naturally. It came naturally. You know, he would call and you're like, oh, another call. Or you get a text and it's like, oh, it's her again. And you would put her first. You would defer to her first. And this came naturally. And couples who make it and who have thriving relationships just learn how to do that for the rest of their lives. They learn how to count the other person. They learn how to count their partner as more important than themselves. And you may be thinking, well, that sounds kind of dangerous because what if they don't reciprocate it? Yeah, they may not. But he says, like, in your own person, like, if you want a great relationship, you should learn to count someone else. You should learn to count Tim as more important than you. And Tim, he's saying the same to you. Like, you should learn to count Kelli as more important than you. And it's this idea that Paul emphasizes, and it's a word that, I'm gonna say this word, and most of us are like, oh, we cringe when we hear it. But in this concept, when we do this, this is what Paul means, and when he talks about mutual submission to one another. Because he says a Christian marriage, a marriage that's centered on this, a marriage centered on this idea and this principle will be more concerned about being loving than being right. Because you guys know this, you can be right all the time and you can argue your way through every complication and every situation and every conflict you have, and you may win every single fight, but you're gonna lose the relationship every single time. So it's not just about being right. It's about learning to be loving. And that's a difficult thing to do. Because look at what Paul continues to say. He says, let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others. Now, I don't know about you, but this is true of me. I'm usually only interested on the things that interest me. And I'm sure that's true about you. And so now Paul's telling you, like, in this relationship, you have to learn to be interested in the things that interest Kelly. And Kelly, you have to learn to be interested in the things that interest him. You may be thinking, well, I don't like everything that he does. And yeah, that may be true. But he's saying you don't have to like it, you just have to be interested in it. And most of us, again, like when you're dating, like this is the natural thing to do. Like, oh yeah, I love climbing, or I love running. You never ran in your life, like, but you still did it. Because all of a sudden you were more concerned about impressing him. You were more concerned about wanting to do something that he was excited about. And couples who make and have thriving relationships, they just learn how to do this for the rest of their lives. Now, the interesting thing is this last concept. He says, have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who though he was in the form of God, did not count it equality with God something to be grasped, but rather he emptied himself by taking the form of a servant. Being born in the likeness of men and being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death of a cross. Our culture right now, one of the common phrases we hear about people is, he or she is so full of themselves. And 2,000 years ago, the reason we still talk about him is because a man came into the world who learned and showed us how to empty oneself, how to put others first at every single turn. And if there was ever a person that could have been right every single time, it would have been Jesus. Like, think of that reality. Like, he could have walked around the earth and just called everybody sinned out. They're like, sinner, 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 sinner. And like, nope, I'm right, you're wrong. Like, I'm right, you're wrong. But rather than doing that, Jesus chose to do something else. He chose to focus on relationship and restoring relationship, rather than just being right and excluding people who didn't stand up or meet up the standards that he had. And he set the bar so high that everyone failed and then sacrificed himself. And then he looks at us and he looks at you and me, and he looks at you two in relationship with each other. And he's saying, do the same thing. It's not going to be easy. It's simple, but very demanding. Because at every single point, in every single moment, and for the rest of your life, just ask yourself this simple question. What does love require of me? In this situation, in this whatever conflict I'm going through with Tim, or whatever conflict I'm going through with Kelly, what does love require of me in this specific situation? Sometimes it requires me to be silent. Sometimes it requires me to act. Sometimes it requires me to pause. Sometimes it requires us to just, take a step back because we're too emotionally invested. So in every situation, guys, what does love require of you? This moment, I'm going to take time and have you guys exchange vows and rings. Do you guys have your rings? Yes. Ready? Yes. All right, guys, this is it. All right, Tim, I want you to take Kelly's hand. All right, Tim, repeat after me. With this ring, I, Tim, take you, Kelly.
I, Tim, take you, Kelly.
To be my wedded wife.
To be my wedded wife.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
To have and to hold for this day forward.
For better or for worse.
For better or for worse.
For richer or for poor.
For richer or for poor.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
To love and to cherish.
To love and to cherish.
Till death do us part.
To death do us part.
There we go. All right, Kelly, shake Tim's hand. And repeat after me. With this ring, I, Kelly.
With this ring, I, Kelly.
Take you, Tim, to be my wedded husband.
To be my wedded husband.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
To have and to hold from this day forward.
For better, for worse.
For better, for worse.
For richer, for poorer.
For richer, for poor.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
To love and to cherish.
To love and to cherish.
Till death do us part.
Till death do us part.
Alright, now it's tree planting time.
Alright.
Alright, you guys want to?
Head on over.
Yeah, head on over there slowly. So at this time, Tim and Kelly are going to take part in a tree planting ceremony. And the symbolism, go ahead. The symbolism behind this, planting this tree, it symbolizes the roots of their relationship and the continued growth of their love as they become each other's family today. Love essentially is the essence of human experience and emotion. It is the root of all and everything we as humans do. Love enriches our experience and fills our lives with meaning. It gives us a firm base from which to grow, to lean, and to change. Well, guys, you guys ready? Well, Tim and Kelly, you have shared promises and exchanged vows. You have done the tree planting ceremony to show your love, your continued growth. And by the power vested in me and the state of Tennessee, it's my honor to now pronounce you husband and wife. Tim, you may kiss your bride. Give me a second. Ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce you for the very first time, Mr. Tim and Kelli Kirby.